The July 8, 2014 Board of Trustees of the Urbana Free Library will come to order. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Is this live or is this?
Yep, he's good. He's here.
He's here now. Okay.
Yeah.
Petitions and communications. Yes, we do not have any publics. I thought we might have tonight, but they were invited. Celeste, you have a presentation.
I have just a quick few words for you, and I'm gonna stand back just a touch so I can see everyone at a glance. I just wanted to give you a quick update and where we are with a couple of things regarding the audit. We had an auditor from the new auditing firm Baker Tilly out 2 weeks ago, and he worked with me and Becky and then gave his report, a tentative report to Kathy and me and Becky, and so I wanted to share some information about that. And then just recently, the city's audit from last year has been approved by the city council, and I sent you a link about that. So let me point out just a couple quick things about that audit first, and then talk about what we have so far about the audit that will occur this October of the 13-14 year. So the city puts up all the audits for the library on its webpage, and we have now put a link to that section under our Your Right to Know page, under the financial information, so anyone interested in the library's audits can click on that link, and it takes you back a good number of years. So this year, with the audit, there was something new. There was a change to the laws, and so the way that there's something called the Clarity Project, which is trying to make information in audits more clear. So on our audit, in the independent auditor's report on that first cover sheet page, it talks about an adverse opinion and the basis for an adverse opinion. And I asked about this because adverse usually means a bad thing. In this case, it's not a bad thing, it's just an informational note. And what it says is that the audit of the Urbana Free Library, the library's report, does not present fairly the financial position of the city of Urbana.
No.
It's not supposed to present the city of Urbana's financial position, it's supposed to present the libraries, and it says that. So there's an adverse opinion, there's a basis for it, and it's just saying that we do not report the entire finances of the city. That is the case. In the past, this was noted in a couple of sentences, but not laid out in this way. Again, the only reason it's being laid out this way is the new Clarity Project rules and regulations. And then there's an unmodified opinion which says everything about the library is as it should be and is laid out in a way that is fair to represent fairly the finances of the library. So if you have questions about that, that was fine. The other thing I want to point out is that for years and years and years, the foundation's funds, which are completely separate from our funds, the foundation is a separate institutional organization, but for many, many, many years, their information is being listed in as a special fund of the library. And people at the city have mentioned to me about our fund balance and how much money the library has available to it. When some people have read the audits or other information about the library, they have perceived the foundation's money as part of the library's money, which it is not, of course. So I've talked to Rich, the comptroller at the city, about that, just so that everyone's on the same page about whose money is which money, what control there is of it. And then when Kevin, the auditor, was in, Becky and I had the same conversation with him. And so they are discussing how to lay out information about the foundation in a way that it's very clear, even if it's just in the notes in the back. These are two separate things. So just, those are two highlights from this.
Does Friends fall in that too?
I'm sorry?
Does Friends?
The Friends are not reported in this at all. But over the years, the foundation has been, in part, I think, because the library had raised funds then for capital purchases, for capital projects, and then gave the money to be included in the foundation because that was the purpose of the foundation, with the capital projects. So there's been more overlap over the years that I can see. So that is my assumption as to why, again, the Friends and the foundation are both separate from the
But I'm wondering why there's not even a request to include Friends.
The amounts are, is there a threshold for the amounts?
Yeah, is there amount?
There is a threshold that you have to, that if you pass it for fundraising purposes, you need to have an audit. And I don't know that the Friends have passed that threshold. I don't want to give you a number because it'll be the wrong number, but it's 150 or 250 or something like that, so within a year.
I'm just wondering, and you won't have answers to all this, but I'm just thinking, the foundation is a separate 501c3 organization, is it not?
Yes, it is.
As such, I don't understand why is being compelled to present its financial picture as part of the citywide audit. I'm not trying to hide things.
No.
But my worry is that what will happen to us someday is what's happening to the public schools right now. The Illinois State Board of Education is looking at total assets when they decide the daily aid for school districts. So school districts that have just sold bonds to build a new school building are the state saying, you got $8 million in your bank. We're not going to give you any money. And I can see only misunderstandings happening here. So I'm wondering if we can take some action to persuade the city to remove the funds or put them separately somewhere else.
That is a conversation that we're having with the auditors, because these funds are not kept by the library. They are separate in a separate bank account. The foundation has it. They are funds of the foundation. So in part, this is what we've been talking about, but because in part the foundation exists to raise funds for the library exclusively, that is a reason that the auditors were leaning towards including it somehow, and they were going to show it differently. So again,
But we have no control over those funds.
that is correct.
We cannot sit here tonight and say, foundation, spend the money.
That is
So
right.
any more than somebody who at home has decided, I'm going to give $10,000 to the library over the next 5 years, that's not counted in there.
Right. They
I mean,
have
That's a stretch, but
Right.
it's just an example. I'm a little concerned about that.
Well, this is why
I think that's a good concern, because if the schools are seeing it happen, it's
yeah.
going to come down
Yeah.
to other groups.
Yeah, someday, 5 years, 10 years, when you know, a cast of
Especially when
characters
the
has
state
changed
is
a bit.
in financial trouble, which I think one could say today. So I think it behooves us to be careful. I think you're right, Mark.
That's why we were raising the question in a polite but firm manner, that it needed to be addressed in some way. Again, I'm not an auditor, don't pretend to be an auditor, don't play one on television, but I know that there are ways to lay the information out. So as this progresses, they'll be back in October. We can, again, state our case that we feel it should be shown to be a separate institution as it is, and ask what our options are about that.
Do you think that the foundation funds, there's so much money, but if we are included in the library fund, we should be worried about it long term?
I don't think we need to worry. I think we need to be conscious of public perception.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't, we at the library know that our funds are separate, the foundation, the friends know everything's separate, but, people don't deal with the information every day, they don't have as firm a grasp. So it's our job to make sure we're clear and that our partners are as clear as we can be, and this is part of being clear. How is it laid out?
Well, and
Or is
public-
it not included at all in this piece?
And public perception or misperception is what I'm concerned about too.
Absolutely.
Because if that gets out there, because that's really capital improvement fund, that's long-term projects, that's an addition someday.
It's not operations.
Right.
And
Or
I
anything.
think
And it's not ours.
And it's not ours.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll start now.
We are in such a position now that, image-wise, we have brushed it quite a bit, thanks to you.
Oh, well,
And
thank you.
then it will come the time when we should think about fundraising.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's time really just to
I
bring
cannot hear
something.
you. I can't hear a word
Speak
you're
up a
saying.
little.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was thinking that we thanks to Celeste, we are in a very good position.
Yes.
And a while back, we were talking about fundraising, and we felt very uncomfortable doing it. But maybe it's something that we could think about, and then bringing more interest.
We have some more work to do, I think, before this great team can move ahead that
Yes,
way, or the
yes.
foundation on our behalf. But I'm glad people are pleased with where the library is heading. It's
Oh,
good to
yes,
hear.
yes.
And I think we need to thank the staff, the
That's
department heads
what I'm
and the
saying,
staff too,
it's
right,
the
exactly.
team's effort.
It's
Absolutely.
been really a team effort
It has,
from every corner.
absolutely.
And this is a new auditor, so I think it's going to be interesting to see if they do pull out anything that would be different. Because everybody looks at figures different.
Sure. And then, Anna, you had something?
Mark mentioned Friends, and we talked briefly about Friends. Are you going to talk about this?
Yes,
So I'll wait until that.
if you don't mind, wait till we get to
That's
the
what
memo.
I'll, yes, exactly.
Okay. So, about last year's audit, did anyone have any particular questions about last year's audit? Okay,
Straightforward.
great. Then what I want to do now is just take a moment and bring up a couple of the comments that the auditor, Kevin, had for us, and why you will start hearing us talk about some things at the board meeting in a different way, because we're going to make it really clear about how you are doing your due diligence in, for example, looking at the list of bills and looking at the trial balance and the budget summary, as I know you do. So when we talk with the auditor, he's going to write us an initial letter. He did a fraud risk interview with Becky and with me. I think he was going to talk to Beth.
Yeah, usually I get called.
Yeah. So, as the treasurer. So he talked with us, we answered a lot of questions, Becky provided him with a lot of information, different documents and such, and so he sat down with us to say, at first blush, these are the things I'm thinking about with your library. Here are things I want to see you move ahead in doing, because it creates a more stable, safer control environment for your finances and such. So one thing that he talked about at the high entity level is that what we don't have currently is a policy about ethical behavior at the library, that we don't have staff affirm on a yearly basis that they will behave in an ethical manner. We don't have an official whistleblower policy that I'm aware of, so that if people see wrongdoing, that they know that they can move ahead and report it and there will be no negative repercussions. So as we have talked about working on policy starting in September, we will bring forward to you some type of policies that will address the auditor's concerns that the library doesn't have one currently. And like he said, it's not that anything's wrong now, but this will be, it will put you in a better position to have your employees feel more comfortable. And it will bring a discussion of ethics to the library. That is always a good thing to talk about, how we behave in an ethical
In
manner.
the state of Illinois.
Yeah, I will point out that,
Hey, we're number 4, we're number 4.
I will point out that Governor Blagojevich required all, he signed the law, required all state employees to take an ethics test, and he took it himself and passed it.
Well,
So I think maybe it's the design of the test that needs to
I
be.
think it's just a hot button, but yes, I think it's a good idea.
Yes.
You notice how quiet our lawyer is down there?
They get it all in.
He's taking notes.
There's 3 worse than us.
I think I'm on his list already. I didn't mean it, Scott.
So, and as you know, we do have a performance review process with our staff. That didn't happen last year. It will be happening again later this year. And talking about ethics and our expectations will be part of that process. And so he was pleased to hear that. And also he wanted us to talk about anti-fraud programs and controls that we have in place, because there are some things in place, but he thought it would be helpful to you as a board to have us tell you that some of the stuff is very operational, but it's important that you know that the things are in place. So over the next few months, we will be coming to you and giving these small presentations so that you will know what is in place. And again, so that it's available to the public as well. Transparency is important to us. It has been and will continue to be. So that's at the very high entity level. And then a couple of small things at the activity level, so closer down. The board gets, on our website, we list the bills, you get the information on the bills that are being paid, you vote to approve the bills having been paid. So he just wanted us to make sure that we do, if there are any questions, that you would discuss them, which I have seen happen already, and just note that it's important, if you have questions, to feel comfortable asking them and bringing them forward publicly, and to acknowledge that people are looking at the information we put online. Because we know that you're looking at it. We've had side conversations about particular questions, but if there's a way you think you want to indicate that everyone has looked at the things online to show, so we can prove that you are doing your due diligence by calling attention to things when you see there are problems, or just asking informational questions. So we'll look at what other libraries are doing and bring some ideas forward and see what you think would work for your process.
It raises an interesting question. To expedite meetings, we went to the consent agenda, and it kind of
It does.
discourages us from
Individual
raising questions, and I don't know.
The thing that would be
It's,
appropriate is that we have a motion to approve, and then I should call for questions.
Well, if you
Because it
do
would be
consent
emotional.
agenda, you can't can't pull it out. I mean, that's the reason for the consent agenda. I'm just throwing it out because I think once in a while, it'd probably be good for us to say, okay, this meeting, we're not going to do consent agenda, we're going to go through some of the bills and see.
I have no problem with that.
Or if it's a matter of indicating somehow, did everyone look at it? Did everyone look at the budget summary? That was the kind of thing too.
Well, that's kind of like being in school. Who didn't do
Well-
their homework? I'm not sure.
So that's what is a good way to make this workable for the board? And one of the things I think will make it workable is to, at the end of the year, we have the budget forecast, the detailed trial, and it prints out to be this big. And online, the detailed trial is about 245, 250 pages.
And
by the
nobody's
end of
going to
the
read
year.
it besides you.
We look at this all the time.
I know you
of
do.
course.
Yeah.
And
I know all the time.
because, again,
For
people have
reference.
asked me questions even in 3
Yeah.
months about
Yeah.
particular things, so I know people look at it. But what I'm trying to do is look at some other libraries and see how they lay out their financial information, so that some of it's more summarized and at a glance. And I think that if this is always available, which it will be, it's always gonna be available online, but we can provide you with some summary documents
Yeah.
that maybe more at a glance can show where we are with our checking account, where we are with some other things. We've got the Weber information up so you can see at a glance what's coming in with income and outgoing with expenses for the Weber property. That it will make it easier to be on top of in a simple way. And then you can delve deeper if you want to. So it won't feel like you're in school having to study up, but you can still have the information you need to feel like you're making, good choices.
And
or
I think
asking
this
good
is
questions.
new itself, the cash.
That's new.
Yeah.
We asked for that, and we've been receiving it the past few months. And so we're making it available on the website for everyone, as well as making sure it's in your board packets.
One of the things I thought would be helpful
Yes.
when I joined the board a couple of years ago is if we knew what this was for. Like there's Baker and
Which one is
Taylor
that?
Incorporated here,
Oh.
there's several items. If we could turn this page, this way, add a third column, what did we buy from them? What service did they provide us? Now, I'm not looking to make work, but I think once we got this set up, it would kind of roll forward too.
Mark, actually, that is a change. So before the consent agenda, over the course of the years, we would say, oh, what is Baker? But then we
Yeah.
all kind of learned,
Yeah.
it kind of repeats operationally. We did all kind of learn, but so that is missing now
Yeah.
from the newer board members.
Yeah.
I was going to say, new
I
board
still
members
feel
always
new,
feel that
yeah.
way. Yeah.
Probably shouldn't, but.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fair.
And I'm not saying we need to make these specific agenda items, but just, if we just add a third column in there.
Well, a
What was
footnote
it for?
page as to what some of these every time are.
Yeah, and an occasional reminder as to why we're approving these bills separately from the payroll. And the rent, the heat, the light, stuff like that. So I remember asking for an explanation of that a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure I got a clear one.
Okay, well, let me follow up on a couple of things at next month's meeting and bring some things forward.
I won't be here next time.
We just had a crib
Can I
sheet.
suggest a September meeting?
September might be good, give us a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the things appear maybe once or twice a year only, and some appear monthly, and that's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if everybody else on the board understands this, and I'm just the one who's left
You know,
behind.
I think you've got
then that's-
probably
Yeah, I don't either, and
isn't.
from way back, I have some notes, but I don't even know where they are anymore.
But it's the name, is all that you know,
And
and
if
you
I-
don't know what it is.
If we had a list of those that we just kept, and you could just always look at it, it
Yeah.
wouldn't have to be each time,
No.
just
Could
a
just be a-
one-time.
An
list.
index to what these are.
An
Well,
index,
we'll
there's
talk
a,
about that, we'll see what we can develop
Yeah.
that might be helpful to you.
Because I think now Baker and Taylor, for example, we buy books from them, right?
Yeah.
Books and
Okay,
DVDs.
and that's just
Yeah.
purchase books,
That's all we need.
yeah.
Okay, well, we will take a look at what is a good way to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the other thing I want to mention is that some of the changes that have been happening and the questions that we were being asked are based upon the COSO, C-O-S-O, the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission. And so what I'm doing is taking a look at their website. You're shaking your head, yes, okay, so Beth knows about this group. So I'm taking a look at their website. They have different tools. For example, this is called Enhancing Board Oversight, Avoiding Judgment Traps and Biases. It's a 28-page report on those things. So what we're going to do is read through some of these and see again which pieces of these seem to be relevant to you, pulling them out, putting them together, seeing, again, to make good use of your time. But it's going to take us a moment to go through their website and see what pieces seem like they might be most helpful to you. So we will keep bringing you information about this. It's important to make sure you're getting what you need, and we will take it from there. Any other questions or comments or requests for the moment?
Sounds good.
What was that website, the name of it?
COSO, here, I'll just pass this document around.
Oh, COSO.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on for items of action or discussion, building and grounds, any item? Technology? Have we advertised the position
We'll talk about that after the budget.
after the budget?
We have to pass the budget first.
Okay.
So the answer is no. Not yet.
Thank you, Mark.
I could say it, you
The
couldn't.
June budget revision.
So, we
I'm not sure I'm seeing that one. This is the next one, right?
Yeah.
The 15 budget.
So we didn't have on the agenda a specific action item for the June budget revision
Yeah.
to close out the fiscal year. So we did have copies of that, and we have more copies out from last month. And
Oh,
you didn't get one, Chris, let me pass whenever you're way. So this is what you did vote to pass as the June revision for the end of the year. You got that, yep, you got that.
Yeah, is this the June?
It is, but we,
It says
it wasn't.
14, 15.
That should be 13,
I think I,
nope, that's the wrong one, then you need this one,
yeah, that's what I
the
thought.
blue one.
Oh, I've got the 14, 15.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't have the packet then.
Did we not print?
We were
copies?
supposed to get it last month's packet. You told us to.
I gave you copies.
Last
I did bring
month.
that last month.
And I
right.
didn't pull it.
But
Oh,
you actually guys voted on it last month?
Yeah.
It's not on your agenda.
It wasn't
So
agenda,
We brought it
so-
officially forward. this
So
time to vote.
we need a motion to approve what we voted on last time.
Because it was not on your agenda, so technically
Yeah.
it was
So we
not
couldn't
legally.
do it.
Does anybody have any questions before we look at this? Because I know some of you are pulling it up on your computers.
Actually, I think we need to make a motion before we discuss it.
Yes, is there a motion to approve
So-
the revisions to last year's budget?
So move.
Second. Discussion. Anything that you have question about? It's a matter that we do this 3 times a year, we revise so that we're really on target at the end of the year. And it basically doesn't make a lot of, it isn't a major concern, it's just that we
It
do
just-
that.
Were any questions raised at last month's
I
meeting?
don't think
since
there was,
wasn't
I
here
don't think
that
there was
No, and I
anything.
think, yeah,
So
so
it's pretty straightforward.
it was
Yeah,
very
yeah.
straightforward. I know my opinion's not changed over the month.
That's good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that's approved.
Great.
Now then, the budget revision for 14, 15. You have copies in your packet of that.
Yes.
And she's highlighted the things that are changed.
Yeah.
Is there a motion for approval of the fiscal year
Revision.
15? I guess you'd say 14, 15? I think we should.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Are there discussion items? Like I say, you have it in
So
front of
then the
you.
IT manager, so I'm looking at your notes here. My
Yes.
question was the IT manager, and
Yes.
And my question is about the Friends, where all that money comes from.
So what happens is, over the years, the Friends have 3 book sales a year.
Right.
And they give all that money, they set aside all that money to have materials purchased, books on CD, digital books, by the staff. And the practice has been, over the years, to spend the LO5, the general budget, the LO5 general budget funds first, and to save the Friends money and spend it second if need be. And what has happened is we've been successful in buying the books and the materials that we need to serve our public really well out of the general fund budget. So at this point, for example, in the adult Friends Book Sale Money Fund, which is L10 trusts, endowments,
Oh,
we've got $44,000 set aside.
that
And
has
so-
accumulated
that has
over the
accumulated over
course
a
of
period
how
of
many years?
So what I have asked to
Many
have
years.
done is that Laura and Anka and Mary have looked at all the different trust and endowment funds, and we're coming up with a spending plan for over a period of years to see how we want to spend this money that has been accumulated. And not that we will spend it all away, but what are the funds, what can they be spent on? Mary found the one fund that's for large print exclusively, and so she's got a plan to supplement this year's budget with that. So we pulled money out of this year's materials budget, supplemented with these trust funds that we can put towards an IT manager and other things. For example, putting money into the capital funds. So we've got $13,000 in case something big breaks. Now, it's not something really big, but we can, again, save that money and start building up an internal fund. for when
And we
something-
can, in fact, use some of those funds for materials purchases and take the materials budget in for other lines.
That's correct. And that's what we're doing here.
Now, going back to the earlier discussion, the
Yes.
Friends money, we can determine?
The money that the
Because the
Friends have already-
foundation, we can't say anything about, but the Friends money, we can to
This
some
is
extent?
money they've already given us. that we
They've
put
already given
aside.
it to us, I
They have
see.
given us the money.
Okay, so they may have some more, which is none of our business, it's theirs, until they give it to us.
Correct.
You've answered a whole bunch of questions. Good, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's who has the authority to spend the money.
Exactly,
And
exactly. That.
once it's given to us,
Yeah, who's
then
holding
the
the money?
library.
Well, and I just,
Authority.
I had no idea that there was that much.
That much, I know.
Had accumulated, which is, in a way, very nice.
Very successful friends. They work hard.
Well, very
They-
successful, but I would have thought that the money would have been
Well,
spent. I mean,
and you've seen over years, book plates in books that have said from
Oh,
Friends.
absolutely.
So we always knew that they were buying materials, but
The staff has done a great job living within its budget. This is a really successful, thoughtful staff.
everybody is to be commended once again.
Yes.
That's terrific. Okay, thank you.
okay, there are other items. I mean, you brought up the major one that is the shift from one fund to another. Of course, health and life insurance is a major change. Oh, the per capita, you said it was, report that we had to put in has a target 15% for materials. We've never hit 15%.
That is true.
Do we have a problem with filing that report then?
No, that.
It's just a
Kathy can
target?
speak to this more. It's a target.
It's a target that is, there's actually we have to refer to a specific book that is printed by the state library. And so there is a goal that we have to reach, and no, we have not reached that goal
For many years.
for a while.
Do they ever comment on it or complain to us about it?
They don't, but that's not to say that they know well.
Right.
But,
Well, and it's really a nice goal for us to say we ought to be shooting for 15% of our budget. Are there other items that you?
Yeah, my question
Sure.
was just the IT
You had one
manager. I mean,
Yeah.
not so much that it looks like you just were able to make the budget change, all that, but there was some discussion before for actually coming up with the target salary, and we're gonna compare with the city, or, so how did we arrive at this salary figure? Because it's just always really hard to get people with the expertise and knowledge and what salary you'll be able to find. So I'm just curious whether,
How did we come at that salary?
so is this just
Is
what,
that
is this what our budget can bear, or is there some,
that was devised before, when Pat was hired, and so that was
That was what it
years
was.
ago. Yeah, it was like 2006, when that salary scale, when that was created. And so I really don't have knowledge of how they arrived at that figure, but I'm sure, based on what I know happens here, is that they compared it to probably the Champaign Public Library and other libraries that were comparable to come up with that number. So,
I think I get your point, and I think IT is an area where
it's
you
tough.
can't mix and match, I mean, because everybody does things a little bit differently. And if we have a salary that's high enough to
Attract.
attract somebody, we want it to be high enough to retain them. So we can get 2, 3, 4 years or so before they move on. I think if we have to replace an IT person every year, or the new person is going to take 3 months to backtrack and figure out what's been done, and
And you know, but if I look at this and I say, this is going to get someone with maybe 1 or 2 years of experience, someone who's growing, into the job, and you're not gonna get somebody who can come in and probably hit the ground running, who's been out there in a while, just because of the competition for the type of knowledge that you need, probably for what we're asking for. So, it just looked a little bit lower from what I know, I've seen in other places in town trying to attract and retain. It's a retaining. So sometimes though you might have a two-body problem and somebody with the knowledge who just simply needs a job because their other partner has gotten hired elsewhere. But otherwise, this looks like we might get someone.
Entry level.
Yeah. I think what Beth is saying is she doesn't want to have people come here to go ask her for jobs.
Hey,
Because they,
I'm actually saying it's not impossible. I'm just looking, saying, that really looks pretty low, but then you never know.
So we have a little bit of flexibility in what's in here.
Okay.
If we post the job tomorrow,
Right.
we have a couple weeks to have the job up. There's going to be a couple weeks for looking at resumes and making sure we can get candidates in and interviewing, and they need to give whatever notice. So it's easily another 6 weeks, couple months.
Okay.
So we are budgeting for this person's position for the year. So that gives us a little bit of a window to hire potentially at a slightly higher rate. This is the base salary for that position.
Okay. So that's
Pay
like,
scale.
yes.
And,
You have a
my
little bit of
experience
wiggle
with
room.
budgets is you look at everything from the beginning
Right.
every year.
Right.
And so it could be that if we find the best candidate and that person has a slightly higher price point coming in at level 1 versus base level,
Sure.
then when we would budget for next year, we would have to take that into account because we want to keep the talent that we have.
Sure.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that the 2 points are, what are, as you've done, what are other people paying? But then what is it going to take to get the right person and keep them too?
And then you can't create equity problems
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
existing
what there's-
positions, which is right.
Maybe we can steal the city's
Comfortable
IT
over,
guy.
Yeah, it's tough, it's tough. IT positions are tough.
Oh, there's Dennis, sorry.
Okay, that was my question, and this I'm looking at.
It's a good question.
But you feel if we approve this tonight, you're ready to go and announce it tomorrow?
Within the next couple of days,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I don't want to promise tomorrow and have you be sad.
Do we have candidates even before we, is there somebody in mind that we think is going to apply?
Until people apply, they haven't applied.
Totally open, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I didn't take
That's
anything
a
away
good
from the
question.
search.
No, we just,
Yeah.
until the application is in on Kathy's desk, it's not in, or Becky's desk, it's not in until it's in.
Yeah.
Kind of existential.
Right, cat in the box thing.
Okay, that one answered. Are there
All right,
other things?
That's all I had.
I think it's a good job.
If not, do we have a motion, well, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of approving this budget as now presented for the 14-15 year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Go to it.
Right, we will,
Ethically.
yes.
Okay, the hours of service policy. I told Celeste that I felt that we could probably approve this tonight. Normally, we have policy changes presented, but it seems to me like that this is one, particularly in terms of the archives is here, and that, yeah. That, to me, is a real promotional thing that we can get some footage with, and if we're going to start it right away, we need to get it approved. I think it's a very minor, substantial kind of thing, so might I have a motion to approve the circulation, or the hours of service policy?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Yeah, Celeste.
This won't start till September though, because of scheduling purposes, so we're ready to act, but not until September act.
Have we not started up in the archives?
No, we can't, this is a policy.
Well, yeah. You're right.
So we're ready to act.
I was up there this evening and they said something and I said, we're all ready for that, and then, yeah,
They're
okay,
ready,
that was what they
but
said.
people have holidays and summertime plans and such, so.
So we can do the PR thing in September.
But I do think that's one of the
Being
things we
ready
have
and
to.
having started are two different
Yeah.
things, yeah.
But I do think we may need to make big hayway with the publicity for this, because, and I don't think it's enough to do on our website or just around the library. I think we really need to hit the media with it, that it is taxpayers' dollars that are going farther, and you can use, and this, to me, because we are the archives for the county, it's big news. from
How
our
about a
library.
letter to the editor, at least? Everybody reads, if you could get it in the obits, it's two. That would probably be another.
Somebody would have died.
Not everybody reads.
Those are the two places that everybody I know goes to first.
The obits are my first.
Actually, do we do a press release?
But,
Yes, we
yeah,
will.
well,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but press releases are wonderful, but
They
really,
don't do
letters
much.
to the editor
Yes.
are where people get a lot of their information from.
Tom Kasich's doing his local column that he does all the
Yeah,
Do we have anybody that wants to volunteer to do a letter so that we know that something's underway? We might ask the archivist to do something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think to me, it's really big news. We've had a tough year, and this is really big news. Other suggestions on promotion? Because I know we'll do it on our web, and I know we'll do it around the building.
But not everybody reads, goes to the
No.
Well,
website.
I think we were talking about before the meeting, keeping track of, does this bring in more users of the archives or just stretch out the same number of users over more hours? I mean, which is it's not a bad thing, but just be good to know.
I would think in the long run, it'd bring in more people who do not have confined to those hours.
I think so, but it'd be good to get some, if there's a measure that we take without costing a lot of money to
I
do
know
it.
that Anka's got some plans, because people may also ask, well, could you be open later, different days, or could you shift hours? So we will find a good way to capture that information so that we can be responsive. This is a response to patrons
Yeah.
wanting us to be open more Wednesdays.
That's
And
a-
then hiring an archivist so they could shift their hours differently. This is no additional cost. This is with the staff that we have and shifting hours.
This is a good point. I'd like to ask the fellow board members, do we want to give the administration the flexibility to experiment with the hours of the archives without coming to us if Thursday night proves to be a better night or Monday night or something like
To me,
that?
that's really operational.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think so.
if you feel like, if we want to keep this as a policy, maybe we give the administration time to experiment and then come back to us and say, we recommend a permanent change in the hours, but try 6 months of one, 3 months of another, if you think we'll expand the use. Is that making sense?
I'm listening.
Okay.
And I think we can, and then if we find that we're better solutions, we change the policy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Education and training. I don't
Do we
know.
have to vote on the policy? Well, I'm just wondering, do we want the policy to be more flexible? Do we want to just say
The archive out of the
what?
schedule?
And an additional evening or something to make it so you don't have to stick with a particular night?
Well, what I can tell you that Anka said is that knowing, people know that they're open the one Wednesday night from 6 to 9. And so Wednesday's a night people are used to coming to the archive, and they've asked for more Wednesdays. So that is a direct request from patrons.
So having the policy read like that is,
Makes sense. And if it turns out everyone's clamoring for Tuesday, then we can change that later on.
But the question is, do you want to leave the archive in the policy
Right.
altogether? Or if you
Exactly.
pull it from the policy, then
then you have the flexibility.
flexibility. So that is a
Exactly.
separate question.
Yeah.
It's the only department really that has the separate hours.
Yes.
I mean, children's and adult, and, so that's, because it was closed when the rest of the library was open.
And still will be closed.
It still will be closed,
Parts
so
of the
in that
time.
sense, it does need to be pulled out and highlighted, I think, in the policy.
It's
really not
unique,
like the
it's
rest.
unique in the library, and it's really a research department.
But I,
But we want to have enough flexibility.
yeah, that's it. I think we
You
need to
don't
still
want to
give
change
them
your
flexibility.
policies every 6 months. That's just
Right.
not a,
But I hate to make the
Not a good
policy so
policy.
wishy-washy that it doesn't mean anything either. Whereas we've got a policy now that's expanding that. We can always review that at a later date, but I guess I'm in favor of passing a
Yeah,
policy
me
that
too.
states.
Me too. I think Anka's probably suggested this as the
And she had a
department
reason.
head, and she has a reason,
Yeah.
and.
see how it works and maybe
If-
revisit it
if
and
it's-
reword it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd say let's just pass
Yeah,
it.
well, I think pass it with the proviso that the library can experiment with these hours
Do
over
we
short
need-
term.
Do we need an amendment to that statement then, in order to do what you're
But
saying?
then, Mark, then you're kind of putting the wishy-washiness in the
Yeah.
policy. This is
Yeah,
policy.
no,
Yeah.
policy
is-
shouldn't be
This
wishy-washy.
is a statement rather than saying, this is a statement, but we might change it.
So you're thinking if they decide to change it to Tuesday night, or you want them to come back to the board?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it's
Yes,
a
yes,
that's fine.
policy issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the hours of service policy, please say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. Education and training, don't know that we've got anything. Report of the liaison groups, do we have anything from the Friends? Don't know that we do. Foundation?
I can give a quick update about the foundation.
Yeah, please do.
A couple of quick things about the foundation is that we did talk about some type of written agreement between the library board and the foundation board to indicate that the foundation would indeed pay off the mortgage when the mortgage came due on the Weber property, and that the interest payments would be made by the library before then. What we need to have a written document, and Jim Simon at the city said if I drafted something, he would take a look at it and tweak as need be, so we would have whatever contingencies needed to be in there. For example, if the foundation decided didn't want to pay that off, would we have the right of first refusal to pick up that mortgage to pay it off to own the building? So not that that's going to happen, but just looking at it contractually, what are the things we need to think about? So I will, over the next month, work on that and give him something so that then it can come to you and the foundation board and you can.
Becky, did you find
Absolutely.
anything that I signed that when we were making those changes? I don't know what I signed.
We've looked at the paperwork, but I haven't.
Barb has a full packet of everything signed that she's in the process of scanning for the foundation's files, and she said she would give us an
Because
electronic copy of
we
everything
sat there
as well.
in the office and
Sure.
signed that we were doing this mutual agreement to
Yeah.
do this, but I don't know what it said, now that you raised the issue.
And there are
So-
other things that we have copies of that are half signed, so again, we just want to make sure that the
Yes.
library has a copy of things fully
Mhm.
signed, so we're working on
Yes.
beefing that part up.
Any news from the Heartland that you want to report, other than
Other
the,
than Lincoln Trail, still trying to get a quorum to transfer property to them. I just got the second email asking us to do this little doodle poll so we could give our hours, because the last time they couldn't get a quorum.
And summertime's tougher.
Yeah, and then they pick 11 and 2 as the time, so people don't have jobs, you know?
okay, let's move on to the reports from the administrative groups. Do you have administrative staff, do you have questions of individuals from
You
their
know, I
reports?
have one, something on Celeste's report and something, let's see, my highlighting, it's probably the same thing. And it was Mary's, it was just the Martin Wolski's DCO grant. So the grant's been funded and it's gonna, include all this, but what are we doing? So I read it and it didn't really specify what our actual participation is. It's just that saying we are participating and we're gonna support digital literacy but is there anything more specific that we're doing?
They're working out the terms and everything. We're gonna be one of 5 resources in the community where there'll be courses and training available and graduate assistants to help with some of the training. And as we get more information, we will pass it on to you.
Okay.
Joel and Amber are in charge of it, but this is a good thing because it'll help provide us with more people helping the lab.
Sure.
And offer some of the programming that we'd like to.
Okay. So it's actually, it's the grant is buying bodies
Yeah.
rather than equipment.
Correct.
Okay,
And
that's
maybe some equipment as well.
Okay.
And it's going to be project-based work, so there are different teaching methodologies. And the approach that's being taken here is, you can teach someone how to use a mouse, but how many people will come just to learn to use a mouse? Whereas if you say, what is the thing you want to accomplish? We will help teach you the skills to get to what you want to accomplish. People are going to learn an awful lot and retain it, and studies have shown that that is
Yes,
more
yes.
useful and more engaging for people.
That's true.
And so that is the approach that they're taking here. So there will be some different types of adult training classes to get people the skills they're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. So that helps. 'Cause I know when we had the presentation before and saying, oh, this is great, but what do we really get? So this, I think that answers
I
my
had the
question.
same
Mark
question,
just
so that's good.
contacted us today about some training in the beginning of August, which is similar to what he's done before, but that people will be able to attend and tear down desktops so they can see all the parts of the computer and put it together and sort of learn and understand how that works. So it could be quite exciting. The best trick he gave me was to take your cell phone and take a picture of all the pieces before you get the pamphlet, so he can figure out where to put them.
Put them all back together.
Putting it back together. So,
Anke isn't here, but what is the progress on the payment by archives and fees and such? Do you know?
Anka is on vacation,
Yeah.
and so I'm still awaiting some information from her, but as
Okay.
soon as I get it,
Okay.
we're gonna proceed. I know that News Gazette is very anxious to get that project complete.
I see that the EDGE assessment workbook is to have one staff and at least one board member attend that.
But actually, it's a online, it's a webinar.
Oh, it's a webinar.
It's a webinar, it's 20 minutes, and what I was going to say is, I've already looked at it, but I might send the link to all of you to look
Oh,
at.
that would be good.
It's
20
20
minutes
minutes, you
would
go
be
to the
good.
website, you
Sure.
read all about it.
Sure.
Terrific.
So
That's a
that
good
might be
idea.
the easiest way for me to do that as well.
As long as Kathy is just speaking, I know everybody else was here to say congratulations
Yeah, thank you.
last month, but I was not, so congratulations. I think it's terrific,
Thank you.
really, really good. I did have one question but you're not finished.
No, go ahead.
On page 2, under Karen Harrington's miscellaneous, this sentence, quarterly meeting with acquisitions hourly clerks. We review tagging procedures, the list of department processing priorities, requirements for collections which are never new. What does that mean, which are never new, in quotation marks? I don't understand the statement.
So some
What is
books
being
like
said?
that. Some books, like, for example, maybe a travel book or test prep book, don't go to the new bookshelf, the new bookshelf.
Oh,
So
okay.
they go straight to
that
the regular
makes-
shelves.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh,
Sometimes I read these things and it's gotta make sense to somebody, it just doesn't make sense.
You know, I looked on the shelves this evening that had all return books, but not yet reshelved. So I went and asked Mary what we were doing, and they went through the priorities. When a person comes to work in the morning at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, they've got a priority list, and reshelving those books that just got returned are not first on the list.
I see.
that's because they're there so people can grab them. right?
Yes,
Yeah.
they're available, but they haven't been put back on the shelf where they belong. So that made lots of sense. But I was really surprised when you read me the list as to what the priorities were. And they made lots of sense. New books were ahead of those, all that kind of stuff. It was nice. Thank you.
Well, and then I also noticed in Mary's report, 26 incidents.
What's going down?
That's just appalling. I mean, you poor guys, it's just,
Scott, want to comment?
that's more than 6 a week.
I think you just had.
You're stuck in the school board.
That's more than 6 a week. That's just
Realize some of
incredible.
them are advisory things for the rest of the staff, so we all know about things that we
Okay.
need to be concerned about. Some of them are actual incidents that happen.
Yeah, well, and, police deliver 2 no trespass notice. That's a relatively short period of time. Anyway, duly noted, and I wish you all well.
I guess on that point, is there, and this isn't really an agenda issue, but is there anything that, I recognize it is going down. We've talked before about, officers patrolling, we've talked about surveillance, things like that. Is there anything that the staff feels like it needs to address these issues, or is it just the training with the staff? It's really this personnel, really, right? It's the training of the staff of how to deal with these issues. Is there something that has come up since we've talked about it, which has probably been a year, where you feel like there's something else that you would like to see?
Yes, but there are priorities too. So we were talking about putting lights on the front porch to illuminate areas at night. We have a lot of people that use the building at night. We have one gentleman that plugs his laptop in outside.
All from the outside.
I think continued training, our patron incident committee is meeting and overhauling things and talking to Celeste about what are the best practices to do. We do want to have Lieutenant Saunders come and talk to us again about working with people that have mental issues and how best to handle them. And so we're talking about how we can provide workshops of that. We continue to do the 30-30-30 as we can, and just be aware of our surroundings.
Excellent, okay.
Might I suggest if you do light, motion sensitive lights maybe or something like that, wouldn't be on all the time.
I'm thinking once they go to sleep.
Yeah, I have motion detection lights at our house, and at 3 in the morning, it's pretty scary.
When it goes
But
off.
people tend to spend the night sleeping on the front porch, so actually continual lighting perhaps might
Okay.
be, and it can be very lovely and highlight the building.
Yeah, I think continuous lighting on a photo cell would probably make more sense. And
This is
do you have an estimate of what it would cost to do that?
We're just starting
We just
discussions
started.
about this
Okay.
and what are other options as well.
Okay.
Has Furball gotten any publicity?
Yes, blogging.
Oh, and blogging,
And he's
okay.
still
I don't blog,
with
so-
us, and we take him out and let him visit around, and the kids really like to see him.
I'm sure they do.
Facebook.
Yeah.
He's been on Facebook.
Social media.
Yes, that's right.
I think it's a wonderful idea. If it can't be a cat, it can be a
And
construct.
the Humane Society has been wonderful. He had a little.
That sounds like.
Yeah, he had a little bald spot in the back of his head, maybe 3 weeks ago, and so they came and took him to the vet, brought him back, and.
And
his
that didn't
hairs grow
cost us
back.
anything?
It's kind of wild now. It comes how he comes out with bedhead. He comes out with a little house, and he's like.
I'm glad I asked.
But they're taking good care of him and making sure he's in good hands. He is.
Okay.
There's one, just a comment. I love that Biblioteca did the antenna replacement at no charge, so the service contract or the warranty is working as it should. And that's just, so was it pretty straightforward?
Yeah, they
Love that.
sent the replacement parts, and as soon as they arrived, they contract with a technician who's coming from, I want to say, 3 hours away, but,
Do you think that's going to be a perpetual problem with that piece? That
no, the replacing that piece in all four
Okay,
was to
okay.
be preventive,
Okay,
so that it wouldn't happen with the other two. So we're hopeful.
yeah.
We're hopeful.
Mary, you were looking for the number of notary.
Yes, I thought you might be interested. It's
Very
been in
interesting.
effect a week. I went up and I looked through the receipt book. We've had 70 transactions for 101 notaries that people paid for starting July 1st. So with 101, we've been averaging between 400 and 600 each month, so maybe we're on track.
We're on track.
We've
yeah.
gotten minimal comments. The Urbana Free Library isn't free anymore was the most overt that I heard. But I don't know if anyone has gotten, has wanted witnesses. We decided not to provide witnesses anymore because it was often disruptive to staff to find it up. So I don't know if we've run into that yet.
We didn't say we would provide witnesses before, though.
That's true, but we were always nice enough to try to provide witnesses.
And the witness has to be on the certified, right?
No.
No?
Just be a witness.
Just be a witness to it, okay.
So far it's going okay.
I also commend you on the media mall usage. I think that's been very good.
It's
Growing.
very popular. They have a new option now that we just found out about called Overdrive One that will let you, if you download to more than one device, sync them together. So you could be reading on your phone or when you got home, switch to your iPad and pick it up in the same place.
Hmm.
So,
How do you relate that to people if they can do that?
well, since we just found out about it, we haven't. But it's just basically, just tell them that if they have the technical comfort of doing it, they can set it up so that they don't have to worry about backtracking on different devices.
Any other questions that people had from the staff reports? Okay, unfinished business. Any item of unfinished business anybody knows about? I'm not sure, did I ask the last time, and it's my memory, for somebody to work either with me or independently to put together or start to work on a review document for Celeste, mid-year review?
Wasn't here, so.
Okay. Do I have anybody on the staff that would be willing? What Celeste and I have talked about is a mid-year review that would be geared towards the job description, that she would feel like that we were recognizing or asking her to look at other things or spend more time at this and less time at that or whatever, but that goes along with her job description. So is there anybody that has, the people that worked on it before, other
I'm
years?
willing to work with you.
Would you like to work on it?
Sure.
Okay, Jane, why don't you get the job description if you don't have one handy? And I would say just work independently and then we'll kind of
Get
review
together?
it. Yeah. Is that good?
That's great. You want to have a formal process in place to be done by March, though, for the year.
For the year, yes,
So
yes. This is just a mid-year
So
to
if
kind
you
of,
backtrack, figure out when you want to have that process figured out too.
well, we had one
should
time,
probably get together and just talk about how we want to
Yeah.
set it up. Even if we do it independently, what we say.
yeah, that probably would be independent, but I just think, we owe, and we've all said we owe it to Celeste to give her some feedback early on, so I think this is,
Yeah, I'm willing to work with you.
Well, maybe it's already been said too, but I think we want to tie this together with sort of a collaboration with Celeste and maybe the management team in terms of what things do we want the administration to be working on, focusing on next year?
there are so many things that it
Yeah,
is a
there are.
problem.
There are, yeah.
And I guess I've been thinking that, you know, so far Celeste has been very good at calling attention to something that it's crisis time. And so she says, can we do work on this? So I kind of have left it in her arena to arrange priority-wise the kind of things that we do, but I think you're right.
Well, I think the administration always needs the ability to focus on what's
Yeah.
just popped up. It
Yeah.
needs to focus on it. But I think in terms of a long-term roadmap, you know, ultimately, everybody's going to be measured, their performance during the years will be measured on how much were you able to move toward the goals that were set for you. And then there may be reasons why we can't, but.
It's our
Oh,
job
there
to
will.
have the big picture, it's yours to put out the fires
And implement the big
and work on the big picture as time permits. So yes, we have a
Yeah.
definite role there.
So I'm wondering, maybe we should have, I don't know if this would be an open meeting or a retreat or something like.
You know, leave it retreat because there's, okay, so there's a couple things. Some of it comes down to the board working and figuring out what are the strategic goals for the library? How does the director fall into having their own goals match with the strategic goal, which is sometimes separate from the performance evaluation, how well is a director, or it could be for doing, but generally you've got the evaluation of your job duties plus the evaluation of progress being made towards goals. So you have two things, but then they kind of dovetail. But given that there are outstanding questions as to what the strategic goals are going to be for the library, it's kind of hard. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg, and I think as Celeste is just feeling her way through everything that needs attention,
Right.
will need attention. A small retreat is not a bad idea, but also being given usually 6 months just to kind of get a good feel for things. So this part, we probably want to do an evaluation on the job description.
Right.
And then at the 1 year point, you probably want to then bring in the goals, which means we as a board have to figure out where we're going, working with the administrative staff for
Well,
strategies.
and I think part of that will drive the discussion, because I think as the board, with the situation we had last year, we had a number of things we just put in a bucket that said, when the new director is here, we'll get to that.
And we said with the
and-
strategic plan, we were going to revisit.
Right,
Yeah.
like we said, give 6 months to just settle
Yeah.
in, and then we.
So I'm thinking at the end of that 6 months, what are the priorities for not only Celeste, but the staff?
Yeah, and then that's
all
where
those,
a retreat, then you,
Yeah.
it's kind of joint.
Yeah, I don't have a timetable in mind, but I'm thinking that
Who would you include in that retreat?
the whole board.
And
Well,
The
then
board
you
and the
have a problem
administrative
with
staff.
All the administrative staff.
leadership.
Well, the open meeting, we'd have to figure out how to do it with the open
It's an
meeting
open
thing.
meeting.
Yeah, it's like the leadership team for the library, plus the board, you're doing visioning, your planning strategy.
Can we have an open meeting other than at this location and people were hideaway?
As long as it's open and people can come.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's a way,
Advertise where it is.
with school boards, if there's a facilitator from the Illinois Association of School Boards present, you can have a closed retreat to discuss specific things. I wonder if there's some sort of equivalent provision for other governmental bodies. I don't know, Dennis, do you know anything from the city? Do you guys have,
I've never been on a retreat for the city, so I couldn't really answer it.
and I don't mean going away somewhere, I mean like
So,
finding some, the room out at Atlantic Bread Company or
I
something.
mean, we have had caucus meetings where we do some planning. I mean, we set our city goals
Mhm.
through discussion of what we call a caucus. But it's not really closed, but it's in a, it was held in a different location. It was upstairs, and it only usually drew one or two people. Usually it was one press person sitting.
Okay, you have a caucus and you call it a caucus. It's an open meeting, but you don't promote it, or what?
Yeah, and it's
We
not
have
expected
to.
be that. I
We
mean,
have to
you
announce
do
them.
announce it, it's gonna be
Okay.
handing, and, you make your press announcement, and, it's on the website, but since it's different kind of structure, the different kind of topic, it's not gonna appeal to a lot of people, it's not on
No.
the city.
Yeah.
It's not on a city issue, it's more like planning for the future, so fewer people are just about it matter.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we think of this in two phases. One phase is the setting of the goals, which is a public meeting. The second phase is the staff evaluation, which are personnel issues, which are private, which are closed. Now, I'd have no problem if the public wants to
But
come in.
we're
and
only
have it.
concerned with one personnel. Our personnel
Correct.
issue is one person.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think if we evaluate the executive director, that's a personnel matter, and I think we can do that in a closed session.
Well, what we've always had was collected data, compile it, and then the president of the board visited with, and that was considered to be a one-on-one, and that was not an open meeting. The board never sat there through all that.
I think, I would suggest, personally, I would like to have there can be a one-on-one with the director, but I think at some point, the director should meet with the whole board in that process.
Okay.
And explain things, take questions, and so forth. But I think in terms of the strategic planning, what do we want people to be working on, that could be an open meeting. We don't need to, it doesn't have to be quiet.
I think the discussion, the genesis of this was saying, Celeste's looking for some feedback in how she's doing so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we morphed into strategic planning, and so maybe, Jane, you were going to work, and Chris, you were going to just do the first part, which is how to do the first evaluation.
First
say-
evaluation, kind of a. yeah.
Right,
How
just
are
give
you
her some
doing?
feedback.
Yeah, give her
and-
feedback.
Right.
then
And,
we'll
but
go from
then
there.
we know waiting in the wings are all these things that we
Yeah.
have put in the bucket as we came up with
And
this.
if you term it in terms of a, personnel issue, that would not be an open
No,
session.
correct.
no, that would not have to be. But the
And
policy, long-range strategic plan, which has brought the community out,
That's gotta be public.
it's got to be public.
Yeah, and that's okay.
But that's
There
down the
may be
road
people with some
anyway.
ideas
You
to
don't wanna
share
get
too.
involved in that yet.
That's down the road,
That's-
so why don't we do what we said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Initially,
move on.
and then move on.
Yeah.
I think crisis
You're
situations
probably
still
mulling
working.
it over in the back of your mind anyway already, so.
Are you satisfied by what you hear? I know not only are we're morally obligated to give you an appraisal, we're contractually obligated to give you
It's in the
an
board, I
appraisal.
mean, there are
Right.
places in our policies that state where and when the board evaluates the director and
Right.
such. So that's
Yeah.
most importantly, I want to keep the library where it needs to be going.
And we will backdate so that we meet those deadlines that we
That's
missed
that's
last
why I'm
year.
mentioning March is one thing
Yeah,
that's.
Under new business, per capita requirements, anything, Kathy, you're working on, I think, aren't you?
Celeste and I are working on it together. And over the next, in August and September, there's two requirements that the board is involved in that I think Celeste provided you with one of the chapters that has to be evaluated. And typically what we do, and I have told Celeste what we have done in the past, is the director has evaluated the chapter and kind of written a synopsis about if we comply, where areas where we don't, and then we'll take it from there. So, the rest of it, for me, is pretty factual.
Pretty factual, okay. And the Illinois Public Library annual report, again, is in your lap, right?
That is in my lap, and that's primarily statistical, and I'm waiting for, Becky has to finish the bills for the rest of fiscal year 2014, and as soon as she's done with that, and I can get my spreadsheet
By the end of the week.
of revenues and expenditures, I'm ready to go.
And it has to be in when?
End of August, they actually give us an
Oh.
extra month now. It used to be 1 month, which was really
Yeah, hard.
difficult, but now it's the end of August.
Okay.
So you have 2 months.
That's great.
Okay.
Any other items to come before the board? Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.